While NCAA Football 06 was my favorite game in the series because it was my first, we all remember our first, right, guys? I think my GOAT NCAA football game would have to be 2007. And no, I'm not trolling you guys. I'm not trying to get you riled up with a controversial hot take like some people out there. I genuinely believe this. NCAA 07 took all the things we loved about 06 and expanded on them in a new and exciting way. From presentation to new in-game additions and tweaks to the depth that we all took for granted back in the day, I think NCAA 07 was peak EA Sports. The big add to this game, at least the one that was probably most hyped by EA, was the momentum feature, which, quote, swings like a pendulum during the game's biggest moments as trick plays, big plays, and turnovers dictate who holds the advantage. Based on what transpired in the game, your team would lose or gain momentum. I'm not really sure if this had an in-depth effect or not. That might be something I do a video on in the future, but it was an interesting new feature. I don't think it was the biggest one, though. The biggest one would be Campus Legend replacing Race for the Heisman. It was the second year of that game mode, which would ultimately become Road to Glory. I did a whole playthrough of 2 seasons on this mode on the channel. You should check it out up here. Hey, enough self-promotion. Let's talk about Campus Legend. This was basically Race for the Heisman again, I guess just a rebranding, except now you had the full college experience. You had to go to class. You had to study. You got to party. You got to really try and solidify that legend status. So when you start things off, you pick a major to study. Based on what you picked, you would get attribute bonuses to your overall rating. And then if you didn't keep your grades up, you could face suspension and not be able to play in games. Didn't matter if you were a dog either. The school would not sweep it under the rug for you. I was balling at TCU and still had to sit out. Seems like Texas Christian should be worried about some other things, but hey, let's not bring that up. I just wanted to see the field, man. I just wanted to ball. In addition to the schoolwork, you could also do social activities too, which boosted your legend status. While it doesn't have all the prompts and things like that from College Football 25, it was the foundation for what we know and love as Road to Glory today. I kind of liked having the exams and classwork on there too. I actually learned a lot about English when I was in middle school playing this game mode for the first time. EA completely changed the look and feel of NCAA Football 07 from the game presentation itself. You see the differences in the scoreboard and such on the screen from 06, but also to the way the game played. NCAA 07 really started to further set the tone in the apex of the PS2 era, and Xbox too, but PS2 all the way. Added to the game this year was the ability to jump the snap, and it was pretty OP once you got the timing down. Pressing X on the PS2, timing it up with the snap of the ball, gave your defensive line a huge advantage as they would get off quick. Almost as fast as the computer does against me on College Football 25, but let's not get me fired up here. Offensively, the game also introduced slide protection pre-snap. You could call smart routes, and a seemingly small but actually big improvement to me was making it to where you could actually see the options for audibles when you press square. Crazy that wasn't a thing in 06. You just had to guess or know what your audibles were. The game also added a new kick meter. The only thing I don't like about this is that it nerfed the onside kicks from 06, but this one is much smoother, I will say. I was able to kick a long field goal fairly easily because of the smoothness of the kicking process. Bring this back, please. I beg, EA. I'm tired of missing field goals. NCAA 07 also loves those impact camera moments. While we saw them first be included with the impact players in NCAA 06, you didn't see near as many slow-mo camera occurrences in 06. 07 took this to a new level, so much so that sometimes it was kind of annoying because you'd be in pivotal play and it was hard to tell if you got the first down or the touchdown. That was my only real gripe with this, but the good outweighs the bad here because this is super badass. I love that slow motion camera. Also, I don't know if this was an NCAA 07 specific upgrade. I don't think it was, but I just want to compliment the crowd and the player animations and the cutscenes that you get. I guess if you played the game a lot, it might get a little stale after a while, but I found these refreshing coming over from the same 20 people, if that you see in College Football 25. Seriously, that one guy shows up to every school's games. I don't know how he does it. The game also added a third-person camera mode for the first time for special teams plays. Personally, I don't like this one at all because on kick and punt returns, it's hard to see who is coming at you until the very last moment when it's too late to make a move. But if you sucked at it like I do, hey, good news. You can practice it as part of one of the spring drills in the game. NCAA 07 added 11 new ones from 06, including a kick and punt return option. Unfortunately, these did not carry over into Dynasty mode where you can use it to improve the ratings of your players. I think that might have been 08 that they did that. But you do have those spring drills that you can play and the spring game in the Dynasty for the first time. With the spring game, you have the option to give your young players or new emergers on the team some reps in a low-stakes environment of a spring game. I talked about this in great detail as part of my Forgotten Features of Old NCAA Games video in this channel. Check that out above. Or maybe we'll go over here. Yeah, you see it up there. Click it. Check it out. I love it. When you had the ball in your hands, there were also some changes on what you could do. EA added the L1 and R1 juke this season, which was essentially like a quick cut that didn't take the full animation of a juke. It was nice for weaving your way through traffic where a juke may slow you down a little bit. And I really love this being on the game, frankly, so much that I probably overused it. But before we get into players and teams that made this game, it's actually confession time for me. So I don't know how to get this one off my chest. Here goes. Okay, so this game actually had a really unique glitch that I'm curious how many people actually know about. For some reason, this game was really harsh on penalties. I tried to find if the NCAA added a new celebration rule before the 06 season, and I couldn't. But I know around this era of college football in real life, they started really cracking down hard on that. Look up the Jake Locker Washington loss to BYU for an example. Sorry, Huskies fans. Had to throw it out there, but it's a great example of the era of penalties being celebrations being penalized. So anyways, back to my admission of guilt. Like I said on the game, they were really quick to penalize you for any sort of celebration at all. On the flip side, if the team you were playing was called for a penalty, or if you were called for a penalty, you could force them to argue the call by triggering a celebration by pressing R2 and square on the PS2. Accidentally jump off sides? No problem. After the opponent accepts it, hit R2 and square, and the opposing quarterback will argue the offsides penalty and push his team back 15 yards. Isn't that great? My confession is my best friend Dustin and I played this game like crazy, and I must have done this to him 100 times, and he had no idea. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I had to get it out there. I had to get it off my chest. The celebration thing could definitely be annoying if you weren't paying attention, but I'm not going to lie, I kind of liked it because every game in Dynasty, the computer would be good for at least one of these at the worst possible time. Let's talk about standout players on this game. First thing you notice, there's only one 99 overall player, and that's Colorado kicker Mason Crosby. Ironically, Crosby had his worst year in college in 2006, going 19 for 28. That's 67.9% on field goals. He'd gone 22 for 29 the year prior and 23 of 29 as a sophomore. They probably should have promoted one of our 98 overalls to a 99. Sorry, Mason, but you did make this insane 58-yard field goal in a game for me, so I appreciate you for that. The 98 overall players were all filled with names that should be familiar to you. Oklahoma running back Adrian Peterson, who's just an absolute tank on this game for me, running the football and catching the ball as well. Speaking of catching the ball, Calvin Johnson, absolutely unstoppable on this game with Georgia Tech. I'm confident that I can cook any single one of you with Calvin on this game. You would not be able to stop it. Then you have two defenders. Penn State linebacker Paul Pazlunzi. I think I said that right. Hopefully so, Paul. He's a force on here, really annoying to play against, to be quite honest, especially if you want to run the ball. Paul ended up playing 11 seasons in the NFL, but he was really him in college, winning the Bednarik, probably butchered that too, award in back-to-back years. And then last up we have LaRon Landry from LSU, 6th overall pick in the 2000 NFL draft by Washington. And I actually did not realize this had happened until I looked his Wikipedia up, but he is banned indefinitely from the NFL after failing multiple drug tests for performance-enhancing drugs from 2014 to 2015. So there you go, a little educational piece here on the video for you. Looking at the quarterbacks now, highest ranked one is Notre Dame's Brady Quinn. He checks in at a 96 overall. Eventual Heisman winner, Ohio State quarterback Troy Smith is a 95. Drew Stanton of Michigan State, also a 95. Eventual national champion Chris Leak, next in line at a 93. You got Matt Ryan coming in at an 87 from Boston College. This is also the first year that we saw Tim Tebow on NCAA football. He comes in ranked as an 84 as a freshman. Looking at some running backs, how about Marshawn Lynch, 94 overall. Darren McFadden checks in at 90 for Arkansas. He would see a big jump on next year's game. Then you got Tennessee Titans legend Chris Johnson at an 88 overall with 97 speed, playing for East Carolina. Also got Arian Foster. He was an 88 overall for the Volunteers. Dwayne Jarrett is the second best receiver on the game. Notre Dame's Jeff Samardzija, a future MLB player, is the third highest rated receiver. Ted Ginn Jr. only being an 89 overall seems pretty criminal to me as well, but I guess that 97 speed works. Jordy Nelson, 87 overall at Kansas State. Then you got Deshaun Jackson, an 86 overall for Cal with 96 speed. That Cal team is one of the most fun teams to play with on here. You got Marshawn Lynch, you got Deshaun Jackson, you got Justin Forsett, a lot of great defenders as well. Tight ends now, Joe Newton for Oregon State is the highest ranked one at a 96. Miami Hurricane Greg Olson, a 92. Offensive lineman, one that stands out for sure, Wisconsin's Joe Thomas, one of the highest rated players on the game at a 97. This was a big year for Clemson's Gaines Adams on the game because he was a freak with that new jump to snap feature and being ranked as a 97 overall. Patrick Willis at Ole Miss tied for the best linebacker at a 94. Darrelle Revis, ninth best cornerback on the game in his junior year at Pitt. Revis Island checked in at a 91 overall. And this is a name Notre Dame fans and real ball knowers will remember, real college football ball knowers. How about safety Tom Zibikowski? He had two big year runs on NCAA 07 and 08. He's a 97 here. I think he gets up to a 98 the following year. I know it says senior on this, but he ended up returning for a fifth season. Let's look at teams now. And to do that, we'll fire up a Dynasty and look at the top teams, how everyone's ranked, starting things off. As we scroll down the list, it's wild to see the teams on this rankings, the conference logos changing, and just thinking of how many of these schools are in different conferences today. You see Alabama creeping in that top 25 at number 24. They finished 6-7 this year. It was the final year of the Mike Shula era before bringing in Nick Saban. Hawaii at 67 kind of surprises me. I know this was a year before their generational run with Colt Brennan and a 12-0 regular season. SMU at 93, Cincinnati 97. Hard to believe those two would go on to be in the playoffs at some point around a couple decades later. Another interesting thing I noticed is like none of these teams are that bad. The worst rated team is a C+. EA was feeling generous with the team ratings this year, I guess. Rebuilds were pretty easy back on NCAA Football 07. Not a lot of bad teams. So let's simulate a season in our Dynasty, see how things go. And we see that Penn State actually goes on to win the Natty on this Dynasty simulation over Auburn. Looking at the Heisman winner in our simulation, it's Colorado's Hugh Charles, which is actually hilarious to me because he only had one touchdown on 139 attempts in real life this year. No disrespect, Hugh. Your senior season was good. You scored 8 times, which matched your total touchdowns through those first 3 years of your career combined. Troy Smith, in real life, goes on to win the Heisman and won it really convincingly. That is a huge margin of victory. And then we had a Jamarcus Russell sighting. Got to give a shout-out to my guy, Jamarcus Russell. He could have been special for real, guys. Could have been special. Just put that cup down, Jamarcus. With all the tune-ups NCAA 07 offered, again, I'm circling back around to the start of the video. I am here to proclaim it as the GOAT NCAA football game. But will that stand? Because we're just getting started as we look back, and maybe it's recency bias. We're going to see. We're going to play all the NCAA football games, see which one was truly the GOAT, and we're going to go back and reminisce on all the old games as well right here on the channel. So to me, I don't know, it's the season of giving. It seems like a perfect time for you guys to not only hit that like button, but subscribe to the channel as well if you enjoyed watching this video and our others. We've already taken a look back at NCAA Football 06. Again, we're going to go all the way from the beginning to the end, look back at some standout players over the years, standout teams, and just standout games in the entire series. So that's going to be a lot of fun. If you're an old head like me, you kind of like to go back and reminisce on the games from the past. It brings you that nostalgia. But if you're new here, if you're younger, maybe you're not familiar with NCAA 07, maybe you were born in 2007, this is a good way to kind of go back down a little PS2 time capsule, if you will, and look back on how far this series has come. So we're going to continue doing that right here. It's going to be a lot of fun. You don't want to miss out. I'm not asking you for an NIL donation or anything here. Just to hit that like and subscribe button. It's completely free. I'd appreciate it. It helps the channel grow. And we'll see you back next time as we continue to go back and look on the NCAA football series over the years right here on Spiced Up Gaming. Until then, appreciate y'all.